All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. We have episode number 176 tonight. We're going to be doing a review of the new Netflix docuseries, Surviving Death, and we'll also talk a little bit about NDEs and near-death experiences and reincarnation a little bit. So before we get started, as usual, why don't you head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/mindescapepodcast. For just $2 a month, you'll get exclusive guest episodes and segments. For $5, you gain access to our fan chat episodes on Discord. We also have Discord roles assigned to each of these tiers. We actually did a fan chat today. It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
We had top escapee Sandy was in there. We had Sean. We had Cole. I think Chip popped in for a little bit. And yeah, that was a pretty fun conversation, just kind of a whole bunch of stuff, but we even talked about maybe doing something in the future, like a collaborative episode with the fans where you guys pick a topic and, everybody will just chat and have a good time with it. So we are working also on another secret episode that should be out maybe later this weekend or early next week. And yeah, so head on over to our Patreon, or you can just go to mindescapepodcast.com. Everything's on there, including the link to Indra's Web. Go to indrasweb.org. It is live. Sign up today. We're working on getting it in the App Store, which I don't know when that will be, but we're working on doing that. But you can head on over there. It's live. Create an account. If you want to be an admin or have a little bit more juice, maybe send me an email. We'll try and get you on there. And yeah, so that's the app that we created to connect open minds, all the topics we discuss, near-death experiences, ancient civilizations, ancient knowledge, metaphysics, UFOs, you name it. So, all right, what's going on?
Not much. What's the good word there?
Nothing much. Just, just chilling. We did that, like I said, we did that fun fan chat earlier, and just rewatched part of one of those episodes just to get a little bit refresher for the Surviving Death on Netflix. What did you think about it?
I liked it. There were some questionable sections, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, overall, I think it's a good eye-opener. I mean, it kind of... We were talking about doing a near-death documentary, so I don't know. Whenever I see other things on it, I don't know if it's a jealousy or what the deal is, but they did a pretty good job. I thought it was, Netflix always does do a pretty decent job, and it kept my attention. So what about you?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought they could have just kept episode 1 and episode 6, which I think episode 1's just near-death experiences, like traditional near-death experiences, and then episode 6 is Reincarnation. So I'll just say too, spoiler alert, if you're the type of person that doesn't want to listen to stuff or whatever, don't listen to this, don't pay attention to this, maybe watch it after you watch it or listen to it after you watch it. Yeah,
episode 1 could have been its own little documentary on
I would have
it
just
as
stopped
its own
after
entity.
episode 1, to be honest with you. There was enough there where it was very convincing. Also, too, I just want to throw this in there. If you're listening and you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a 5-star review. We're looking to get some more reviews on our Apple. It's been slumping lately. I haven't really put too much attention into that. So if you could give us a nice review, we'd greatly appreciate it. And if you listen to us on an audio platform, please check out our YouTube channel as well. So
Little by little, as we like to say.
So the episode 1, let's go through this. So we'll start here again. Spoiler alert, turn this off if you plan on, if you're the type of person, I mean, this is a documentary. I'm kind of different about documentaries than I am about some sort of cliffhanger TV show. I can, if I know what the documentary is about, I have already an idea. So like if people talk about it, it's not going to ruin it for me, but I know people are different. So, in terms of the first episode, again, the first episode was just about traditional near-death experiences. I think it opens up with this woman.
Yeah, she's a doctor.
Yeah, she was a doctor, physician. 20 years ago, she went kayaking in some dangerous river in Chile. It was in the middle of nowhere. There was like no easy way in or out of there. She got pinned and submerged in water because they were like a river that had like those small waterfalls or those short waterfalls that people go over with kayaks. She said she felt no pain, no fear. She didn't panic, but I think the interesting thing from that, she mentioned she felt more alive than ever. And then after a while, she said she felt her spirit like peel away from her body.
Uh-huh.
And then she had kind of what we've talked about on our previous near-death experience episodes. By the way, if you haven't checked those out, we did one with Dr. Penny Sartori. I don't know what episode it is. You can go look through our catalog. She's a near-death experience expert. And we also had Dr. Eben Alexander on, who wrote, what was that called? Something Heaven. I forget. I'll have to look that up. So yeah, go check those out. But
Proof of Heaven.
Yeah, Proof of Heaven. There you go. So those were pretty interesting episodes. Both researchers, and they were both in the medical field as well. So I think Dr. Eben Alexander was actually like a brain surgeon or scientist. So
yeah, highly credible people. Again, these are two of my favorite episodes because it's not just bringing in some Joe off the street who had a crazy experience. Not to say that those aren't valid, but these are people that have entrenched into the medical field, and they have some serious clout. So those were some big eye openers for me.
Right. So again, this lady was a physician herself as well. So this is another person who had her own experience. So then she said she was greeted by these unknown entities, and they were conveying messages of love. She didn't know who they are, but she felt like there's some connection to them. And she said she could see every color in the universe, and it was very vibrant. And she experienced all eternity, and there was some like weird dome-like structure there, and she felt like she was at home. The researchers there were in body recovery mode. I think she was talking about, like, she said that everybody always, like, there at that time thought that she was dead already, so they were just looking to like recover her body, and somehow like one guy grabbed her out or something, and then they
they're actually going to grab her life jacket because they thought her husband would want it. And then her body like brushed against the guy, and then they were able to pull her out. And
yeah, no, that's I think you're right. That's exactly what happened. And then they put her on like a kayak or something and like took her out of there to get her help. And I guess she was taken to the hospital, and she was told that she was gonna, or they told her husband that she was probably gonna die. She said that she
never walk again.
Yeah, and she was like, when they pulled her out, she was like bloated and purple. Her eyes were fixed, she said. And she felt physically dead. I guess she didn't have oxygen for like 30 minutes too. I mean, think about that's the
big part.
That's insane.
Uh-huh.
Let me see here. What happened next? Oh, and then like you said, she had to go through rehab and stuff. They said there was like a 0 chance she wouldn't have brain damage, which she didn't end up having brain damage. The interesting thing about this whole thing is when she was in that state, wasn't she told that her son, when he was like 20, was going to die or something like that, and her son did passing away like in his early 20s or something like that? I forget
I thought it was just more of they've like kind of prepared her, and because her son passed away, she didn't take it. I mean, obviously it was a massive...
No, I remember in the story she was given some sort of message that her son was going to die in his 20s or something like that. I don't know if it was that. I'm pretty sure it was during the near-death experience, but it might have been something separate. I don't know.
Yeah, that was kind of a tearjerker, but again, I think because she had that experience, she was able to kind of accept it and know that he was in a better place.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that right there, that's a great way to start it off. I mean, it's a compelling story. You have a doctor, somebody, and she mentions that she did, she thought before all this happened that when you die kind of a thing, or had like an atheistic view to it, or an atheist view. And I don't know. I mean, I thought that was really compelling. Similar too. I mean, we've talked about, my mom had a traditional near-death experience giving birth to one of my sisters, where she was, I think, dead for 3 minutes, and she saw her father and my sister, who passed away when I was younger, and they told her it wasn't her time to go back home, and also that the entities didn't have hands or feet or something. And I've noticed that that's like a pattern throughout the near-death experience stories that I've read too. So I don't know if that's some weird thing that's happening there.
Yeah, they told her it wasn't her time as well. So again, these are like these psychedelic uh, adventures people go on, but they all have these common threads, which makes it even more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, do you know anybody else that's had anything similar to that?
Not really, but it seems like most of these cases that we do more an investigation, and they all have these common traits where they see lights and they see these glowing figures, they feel warmth. And then I also remember that she was talking about how she felt more alive when she was presumably dead, and then she didn't really want to go back into her body, and then when she did, it was like it was like a bad feeling and things like that. And we've heard that multiple times as well.
Right. And that actually kind of she said she felt at home. That's kind of what I've talked about, the feeling on psychedelics. And actually, shout out to Dreaming Jaguars. They did kind of one of their recent videos where they talked about surviving death a little bit. So if you haven't checked out Dreaming Jaguars and you're into more information on DMT and stuff, go check out their channel on YouTube. But yeah, so there is some crossover between psychedelic or endogenous chemicals and psychedelics and stuff and this topic. So, um, I thought that, again, the first story very compelling, and then it goes into like some of the different science and the people researching these things. They went to the University of Virginia. There's what's called the Division of Perceptual Studies. This is where like these scientists and doctors and stuff and researchers study the metaphysics of death, like what's happening, what are all the crossover data, what's the crossover data between these experiences and stuff. So I think they study reincarnation there, pretty much anything having to do with death and the possible survival of consciousness after death. So
yeah.
And then they talk about like in 1892, some guy named Albert Hein created created a collection of NDEs based around his own. He had like an NDE hiking where he fell, and he had this like beautiful experience even though he'd fell from like a high place. So then afterwards he created some sort of compilation, and that would probably be the first person that I would think of that in modern times that studied this. Now I would point to the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the Tibetan Book of the Dead and a lot of ancient mysticism and esotericism having to do with these topics, because there was obviously research going on there.
Yeah, I mean that's the original stuff that a lot of people call back to.
Right.
It's also heavily prominent in the psychedelic community, so I don't know. I've never read those books. Have you?
Yeah, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I have started the Tibetan Book of the Dead, but I don't think I finished it. I got to go back to that at some point.
Yeah, I think I should get into those.
Sometimes I get sidetracked when I'm reading books and doing listening to audibles while I'm doing other things. Sometimes I get sidetracked, and it's like I got to go back to things. So, let's see here. Okay, so like this is a good point too. They talked about like how in 1960s resuscitation techniques got better, and you were able to revive people, resuscitating them, from the dead before.
Right.
They weren't able to do that. Now, they shock people's hearts and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at like the evolution of science too, you got to think back in the day in like ancient Egypt or ancient times, if somebody had an NDE, but they weren't resuscitated, they somehow were able to come back on their own. That person was probably treated with great reverence, right?
Absolutely.
Like this person was there. They knew what it was like and they came back or something, or somebody that like drowned and somehow or was drowning and somehow came back. Something like that.
Well, we've talked about the thing with, I kind of put the connection as we talked about with Lee Adams, how some of these visionaries from some of these tribes, when they battle the paralysis, the demons in the paralysis and come out, then they become the shaman. So
sleep paralysis.
Yeah, maybe there's some kind of connection with that too, where it's like if you can overcome death, then there is some secret quality to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of things going on, I think, but like millions of people have had these experiences now, and like I said, now that we can resuscitate people and medicine's better, we can bring people back more. Yeah, I think that there's a lot more data to be found, and it's somewhat relatively new. So you think back, 1960s is not that long ago, really.
Absolutely.
And then in 1975, you have Life After Life, which was written by Raymond Moody. Or again, it's compilations of people that have either died, or had these near-death experiences, and a lot of the data and anecdotes and stuff. I actually recommend that one. That book's kind of, if you're into near-death experiences, it's usually kind of like I don't know, it's like the go-to to kind of get into it, I guess.
Yeah, I
Uh,
like that too because our buddy's band named one of their albums "Life After Life."
yeah, I just thought about that. Our buddy's band Simplicity. I don't know if that. I wonder. You should ask them if that has anything to do with that.
I will.
Let's see here. Yeah. So people have this distortion or disillusion of time in these experiences. There is no existence of time, or in when they're having these near-death experiences, and a lot of them feel like they're being they meet like a warm, loving being of light, or some light being, or something like that, or dead family members. Um, Lots of these people are self-proclaimed atheists that now believe in life after death, which I don't even think that. See, I think it's possible too. Like, let's say you don't believe in some god or creator. I still think it's possible to believe that consciousness survives death, because it might just have to do with some sort of system in place that has no creator, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if we all, let's just say we're all piece of the universe or something like that, some sort of pantheism or pandeism or something like that, or even panpsychism where everything's conscious. Let's just say that's the case. Well, your energy's got to go somewhere. So if your energy goes somewhere, maybe you go back to the universe, and then at some point those molecules reassemble into some sort of, similar alignment, and then you have something similar to what you were before.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Strange.
Yeah. And then you had the one guy who was talking, he was working on like telephone poles or light poles or something having to do with electricity, and he like hurt himself, but then he went to the hospital and they ended up giving him some medicine that he had like a allergic reaction to. And he went into cardiac arrest, and he saw his dad, and he had like some bad relationship with his dad when his dad was alive. But in this near-death experience, he kind of made up with his dad and like made amends, and he found out that his dad really loved him, and he didn't know that or feel that before. So that was kind of an interesting one. And I know when we talk about this stuff too, it's like there's different, like the materialists will say, oh, it's the drugs given to these people, on their deathbeds causing these things, or, oh, this person had some endogenous reaction, or, oh, I would say though, it's proof that a lot of these people haven't had oxygen and that their brains are shutting down. So if you're unconscious, how are you having a conscious, real experience, this vivid experience? What's going on, And I think some would point to, oh, there's some process we don't know about in the brain that's happening yet, or whatever. Well, we don't even understand consciousness. It's called the hard problem of consciousness for a reason. So if you're going to jump to some new mechanism that nobody knows about, because we don't even know about the real mechanism behind the whole thing. So it's like speculation on top of speculation. I think that's just bad science. I think these things should be looked into. We all are going to die. So why not have a bunch of resources put into figuring out why or what the hell's going on? And I don't know if you saw that article that Robert Bigelow just put a $500,000 thing out there for anybody that can prove life after death. So
yeah, but in my mind is I just don't think that we'll ever be able to prove that, and that's where the faith comes in. I'm not trying to get religious at all, but there is a faith that you just have to kind of go with, and
yeah, but where does that come from? Is it blind belief, or you know what I'm saying? Like, is there something that happened that why we should have this, or are all these things happening the reason why we should have it? And if that's the case, then
well, having the faith, you can come to your own conclusion. You may believe in a religion, you may believe in that you have a higher
Well, let me
purpose.
put it this way. If so, let's just say somebody, the first person to think of the fact that somebody created man, okay?
Hmm.
Or whatever. Let's just say that. Did that person come up with it themselves, or did somebody come down and tell this person that thing? You know what I'm saying? So, like, what's the cause? Because if it's just a person that just thought that up, why am I going to devote my life to this thing when it's something that's been passed on? Where's the knowledge? What's the true knowledge behind these things? And that's why, if you look at a lot of these ancient texts, you got to read them kind of allegorical because they don't apply to modern day. So, and what we know about the universe and how things work, you know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if our human brain can ever even really understand why we're here. And I don't know if our human brain will have, like, there's mysteries to the world that
of
we
course.
we can rack our brain over and over again, but I don't know if we're actually, it's like an ant can't realize what it is. It just does its own thing. Not saying we're ants, but it's
Mm.
into that, it's the same kind of reflection of that. There's things like, how we kind of started this podcast and we were trying to figure out why we're here, what's the purpose of all this. And
Mm-hmm.
the more questions we ask, I'm kind of just under the belief is it is what it is, and that might not necessarily be the answers that I need to live a fulfilling life.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I mean, that's true. Look, I mean, I've learned along the way a lot of stuff is human invention or ideas or thoughts or things that just evolve. The thought of it does, which is interesting in itself because that could be a separate entity in itself, just thought and creativity and whatever. Um, but if it's from us, um, you have to look at like what's the inspiration or what was going on at the inception of, you know what I'm saying? Like I try and go back to that and figure out what was going on there and then move forward from there, if that makes sense. Oh, as much as you could. Obviously you can't go back in time and you don't know exactly what the consciousness was like of these ancient people that created some of these ideas and things. So
Uh-huh.
you just got to do your best and do your homework. Um, so yeah, and they talk about how like the drugs given on the deathbed, actually people that are given drugs that are about to die or whatever supposedly have less near-death experiences than people that don't have any drugs in their system. And then they point to people saying, oh, well, it could be the lack of oxygen. But supposedly lack of oxygen causes like panic and chaos and stress on the body. And these people are reporting these like serene, feel like at home, loving, light, all these things. So it's kind of the opposite of that. So I don't know if that's the case.
So
Um,
what do the big wigs say? Because these people are dead, especially the people that are in hospitals when their brain is inactive. What are the conclusions of how they're able to have memories and see things and
what do you mean? Who? Oh, like the
like what are
doctors?
the people that are the naysayers saying? Oh well, when you die, you die. So is there any reasonable explanation for these things, or is it just kind of, oh well, you're just having a weird dream and you're not really aware of what's going on. So like you're like for instance, your mom had
Yeah, that's what I
an
was just telling you.
experience.
That's what I was just saying. People could say it could be reactions or endogenous chemical releases, or people that are given, drugs on their deathbed.
But when are you having these reactions before your brain stops working? Is that what they're all
Some of no,
chalking it up to
some of
be?
these are but some of these near death experiences are happening after the
I
brain.
know, that's what I'm saying. But what are the doctors saying? Like,
They're
you
saying
go,
that some
dude, my
weird
brain
process.
died.
Yeah,
How am I still?
they're saying some weird process in the brain is still working or still doing something, or their endogenous chemicals as the body's dying or something. That they think that there's some mechanism that's just unknown. Again, but that's
Well, doesn't that
speculation.
support the fact though? It's like, dude, you're telling me that there is something going on when my brain has no activity and I am dead.
Right.
That's what I would like to. We should get a doctor on and really jab at them.
Let's see here. Um, yeah. So and then the other thing is this, to your point. A lot of these people aren't maintaining consciousness. They're like flatlined or their heart stopped. There's no consciousness there, and they're
Right.
reporting these like vivid, insane experiences. And that's what that whole book, Proof of Heaven, Dr. Eben Alexander's book, that's pretty much what he's having this crazy experience. And a lot of people report that that lady, the doctor from Surviving Death, that's her. She had a similar experience. And the other thing is could these be some sort of endogenous thing happening or chemical thing? And if that's the case, I don't think we know as much about the brain as, like you said, as people, these top doctors or whoever, these big time doctors now think that it's just some weird mechanism. But yeah, so if you're not getting oxygen and your heart stopped, and it's just I find it hard to believe that you could be having these crazy experiences.
Well, we know my theory.
What?
I think when you die that your brain is flooded with the DMT, and then it's like when you're dreaming, how time seems to be, it's a lot longer within the dream. You could be dreaming for 5 minutes, but it seems like an eternity.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think I remember you saying
this is like a bridge between the two realms.
Yeah, when I was watching that documentary, I kind of got the vibe that I don't know, I just got the feeling that what if, especially like the reincarnation one, like what if again your energy or whatever goes somewhere or is something, because even in physics, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, so the energy goes somewhere. Now what are we classifying data as? Like what is all your experiences, supposedly modern science would say, oh well, those are just memories somehow being captured in your neurons and synapses, and it's all manifestations of the brain. So if that's the case, well, I don't understand then how is that storing all that? Like, and how can you recall? It's almost like I think of it more of like we're an antenna, our brains are an antenna, or maybe even like the cloud, like we're downloading this information or gaining, or Mr. Vibration here, we're always intaking vibrations and things around us via our senses or something like that. So,
well, I don't know. Do you want to get into that reincarnation one?
Well, hold on. We're going to go through each kind of episode, not fully like we just did. I think we just spent a lot of time on the near-death aspect of it.
Yeah, that one was good. We definitely recommend it.
It was the best. I thought it was the first episode's the best one out of all 6. And that lady, Leslie Keene, who's in it, she's actually the writer. And I don't know what else she has to do with the documentary other than being in a couple of them, but she's the person that she's like a co-writer. I think they did the New York Times, that UFO article. So she writes for the New York Times, but she does obviously a lot of this like metaphysics and metaphysical kind of stuff too. So, oh yeah, just to cap off the near-death one, there was that other famous lady who, I think they said her name was like Pam or something, towards the end of the one, where she was like in surgery and she could see down watching the surgery happen, like what the doctors, and she was able to tell the doctors afterwards like what specific tools they were using, and it like lined up with what they used and everything. So that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of psychic stuff that resonates through all this series.
Yeah. So, okay. Oh yeah, and then at the end of that episode, the first one, there was that pregnant lady who predicted her NDE or some bad thing that was going to happen that eventually did happen. She had a crazy experience as well. So yeah. Okay, so then you get to episode 2 and 3 are both, it's part 1 and part 2 of Mediums. So you have Mediums part 1 and then Mediums part 2. So I'm going to be honest here. I didn't buy any of it. And it's nothing personal. I think that people can tap into stuff. Obviously, you have like Tesla and Edgar Cayce, Dorothy Eady or Om Seti. You have all these people that are like tuned into something else. But then you have these people that I don't know how to say this in like a nice way. I just feel like it's almost like not fake, but it's just like you're preying on people who have lost loved ones in a way. Because it's like, if you are truly clairvoyant, or you have how come you can only talk to these dead people, but you can't give any information outside of what can be found on the internet? Or even the guy in the documentary says, yeah, she could have looked all that up. like in the Medium episode. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, everybody's information's online pretty much now. Even if you were to, there are a couple instances where they talk about things that somebody couldn't have known and things like that. I would have to be, in that regard, that you're talking to an actual deceased person or somebody's energy or whatever it is. I would need to see some, and I'm an open-minded person, but I would need to see something better than what I saw in that documentary. And even my wife and I were like, "Yeah, let's change this." Towards the end of the first one, and then I even tried to watch it again, and I just wasn't. Then they get into like the history of parapsychology and how there was a lot of fakers faking these seances back in the day, trying to create illusions and do all these things, and it was almost like some sort of like one-upsmanship, trying to be the best psychic, and they go through like the history of all the stuff, and then they have these people that have had loved ones pass that talk to these like top. There's some lady from like Ireland, and then there's like another lady who's doing it. The thing I really didn't buy though was this lady having this physical medium where she had supposed ectoplasm coming out of her, and she was like strapped to a chair and manifesting these people's loved ones through them, asking them questions, some real out there kind of stuff. So episodes 2 and 3, the Medium episodes, I didn't buy any of it.
Yeah, I agree. I was,
nothing personal. Show me some Edgar Casey stuff. Show me some real stuff with some written data or like years of work and research, and not just talking to dead loved ones, people, for money. Like these people are doing this for money. It's not like
I don't think that Edgar Casey was very focused on talking to.
No, it was more health and like health diagnose, so, but that's whole different. But what I'm saying is these people are doing it for money, and it's always about dead loved ones. So I think that there's...
Well, it's an easy target too when people are going through the grief.
And again, I just want to point out, I'm not against it. If you truly have some abilities and you can prove it, I'm all for it. I'm just saying I wasn't convinced by what I was seeing in that documentary. So.
And at the same time, if you're going through some pain and you go talk to somebody and it brings you some relief, then that's a true thing. Like we've always said, doesn't matter if it's real or not. If it's helping you, then it is real. So
if they're giving people closure, and like you said, if they're giving closure and something people are getting out of it and they feel like they aren't being taken for whatever, hey, more power to you. You're right. That shouldn't matter. I just felt dirty watching it. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to be an actor too. So,
and again, we're very open-minded. It's not like we're
absolutely.
So,
again, if I went to one, like that's the thing, because I had a good friend who her sister passed away, and it was a tragic thing, and she went to one, and they always somehow pull out some weird information that the people that go claim that there's no way that they would ever know, and that's happened multiple times. So again, I'm not fully.
But here's the other thing: being in sales all my adult life, you can get good at like reading people and like reading. Look, I mean, I got really good at it to the point where I could like predict people's, thoughts on certain things, what they're going to ask, certain, things like that. So I think that if you do something long enough, there's probably archetypes of things that people ask, right? If you lost a loved one, there's probably a general set of things that people ask. And if you get enough of them, you understand how that works. And you can, they have mentalists and they have all these other people too. Again, I'm not saying I don't believe it. I'm just saying what I saw in that documentary, I wasn't really sold on.
Mm-hmm. I was right there with you.
So yeah, that was episode 2 and 3. I'm not even going to spend more time on that because I just...
Hey, if people want to watch them, watch them.
Yeah, I'm not saying...
below, prove us wrong or tell us your thoughts.
Right. So, let's see here. I think the next episode was episode number 4 was called Signs from the Dead, I believe. And that's one, people are looking for these signs, whether it's this bird landing here where my husband used to sit the whole time. I don't really.
And I think that's Go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
Okay.
I want to hear what you.
I just think that's again kind of along the same lines where it's if it's oh well my aunt loved butterflies and then whenever I see a butterfly it makes me feel at ease or it's her and this and that, and again if it's making you feel good then who am I to say that it's real or not? That's the way I look at that kind of
Well,
thing.
here's the thing. I think there is a difference in the sense that something can be real and not relevant, or it's like pareidolia. It's pareidolia of your mind where you're just putting two and two together, but there is no connection there. It's just two things that are happening.
True. But I don't know. At the same time, I feel like as you get older and people pass away that things can start to happen. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like when my best friend passed away, not only did I see him in dreams, but in my basement where we would hang out all the time, weird lights would flicker and stuff like that. Then maybe there is a short fuse, but
Did the light ever flicker after that?
yeah. You mean
So
before that?
no, I'm saying did it after? Well, okay, so it flickered, right, or whatever, right after he passed away. Did it flicker again ever after that?
I mean, it flickers from time to time, but I don't know, man. There was like a weird part. Like I had a drum set down there, and I used to just put headphones on and play to a song. And
Yeah.
this one song was talking about being friends and this and that, and like it started flickering, and it just like it all hit me. It was like a wave of energy, if you will.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say that you went down there and there was drumsticks playing the drums with nobody holding.
His old clothes were drumming, dude. It was crazy. No, but again, is it you in the grief mode trying to make connections to make yourself feel better? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was talking to my aunt about it, and her mom, my grandmother, like, she was pretty much like, she was on her deathbed and she couldn't move at all. And, like, the day right before she passed away, they were all praying and stuff, and she sat up and, like, did, like, all these, like, this weird, like prayer stuff because she was super religious.
Yeah.
And the doctors were even like, I don't even know how she did that kind of thing. So
Right.
it's like, and then my aunt, is very convinced that she sees her, and my other aunt that passed away, my aunt who's my godmother who's still alive claims that whenever she sees a butterfly, it's her sister and stuff. So again, I'm not going to sit here and say no, that's not, because if it's bringing closure to them, but maybe there is some truth. Maybe you do get absorbed into the cosmic flux and
Right.
your energy is floating around still. Maybe we
maybe
do
there's
absorb back into everything else. I have no idea.
maybe there's different spatial dimensions or different dimensions in general that we're just not aware of or can perceive at this. Everybody go read that book again. It's a turn of the century book. It's called Flatlands, a love story, I believe. It's by Edwin A. Abbott. It just talks about like the perception of what you can see from one dimension to two dimensions, like how things look from each dimension and how we perceive things. And if we can only see three dimensions, or let's say the fourth is time, what if there is five dimensions, six dimensions, which modern day physics and string theory, I mean, they call us for 10, 11 dimensions. And then there's super string theory, and some of them go up to like 23 or 26 dimensions or something. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff that is possible that we just can't prove via where we are in our current paradigm.
Yeah.
So yeah, you had the Signs from Dead People episode. Again, it's just different things, people believing that, different loved ones, is this or coming back as this or this meant this kind of a thing. And you see a lot of that too. There was the episode Seeing Dead People, which that was about, it starts with like a lady who's recording, I think it's like, what's that called? Like white noise or something, and trying to talk to these entities through electronics. And then you also have the episodes, or in that episode, they also talk about how, or show like pictures of like how, ghosts in the background of these pictures and stuff. And I wanted to ask you about that. I don't know if you watched that episode, but a lot of those just look like camera artifacts.
Yeah, that's the problem with a lot of those old photos. It's you can do something that's a long exposure where if you're standing there and then you walk away, there's
Right.
like a fragment of you in there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's so much manipulation with photos and videos and all that stuff. It's hard to pinpoint what's going on there. But I must say, yeah, I know you've had the experience of you and your friend watching an orb, and to bring back right after my good friend passed away, we were filming a comedy little series, and I captured some orb flying around, and I stared at this thing over and over and over again. Maybe I can find the footage and we'll put it on our Patreon and people can maybe comment and tell us what they think it is, but it was exactly what you were saying, and it flew around, and it wasn't a bug, and
Right.
it was in our uncle's office, and I don't know, who knows what that might be, but you would think with all the technology we have now, but the more I actually think about it, I don't think that these things are able to be captured. That's why it's more of an energy based thing, and that talking about UFOs, where maybe we'll never be able to fully capture these things. It's more of a mental connection, and
Hmm.
that's the problem, and that's where the lacking information comes from.
Um, I think, yeah, I can get behind that. I think though, when you look at this whole thing, the picture thing. Back to the picture thing, really quick. Do you ever do this thing where you'll like watch your TV or whatever, and then you'll just close your eyes? If you close your eyes, you're gonna see that square or rectangle from your TV.
Absolutely.
Or you look at your computer screen, you close your eyes, you're gonna see that. So these like artifacts are created in your vision, even when you close your eyes after looking at it. So, I've done studies with psychedelics too, where when you take a psychedelic, that actually doesn't occur, at least for me, which I found interesting because it happens not on psychedelics. So, um, if that's the case, and you can see these like artifacts in your own mind, obviously the camera can create those too. Like you said, long exposures. And a lot of them do look like that. Like part of the thing was caught and then didn't get fully exposed till it was in its like resting position or whatever.
Well, all old cameras. That's why you see a lot of people that are. Everyone's like, why are everybody frowning from these old cameras? It's because you had to stand there for 30 seconds.
Yeah, what was
And it's
that
hard
thing
to
they used to have
smile.
where they'd hold the thing up and then light this thing and like blow up?
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
everything was a long exposure back in the day, so it's like hard to hold a smile for that long a time. But yeah, I mean anything could move in and out of there, and would leave a trace or a circle or who knows, man. I mean,
Yeah.
again, the human mind likes to wander, and we like to create things in our own mind and thoughts. Like think about how many thoughts roll through your head that are just absolute garbage each day. So you couple that with just being creative, and you can create all kinds of stories within a picture.
Yeah. So yeah, and this lady goes around all like the different haunted places in America or whatever and records audio and these. Have you ever seen those things that they put up where you can say, if you're here listening, turn this light on, and they have this little thing and the ghost will turn like the light thing on or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to see one of those in the field to really.
Well, we've had talks about it. There's an island in Michigan called Harson's Island, and you know, did we do the ghost stories? Because my mom had a very
Yeah, you told
close
us about.
encounter.
Yeah, you told us when we had Mac on, and he told
Yeah.
his. You told that story with your mom from Harson's Island.
And I've
I don't know what
never seen the
episode that
ghost,
is.
but we did lose, like, we had our keys put in. My stepfather lost his keys, and it was the same exact circumstance. It was a Sunday. No one was at the yacht club, and me and my cousin were running around. We were yelling for this ghost, which probably wasn't the smartest idea, but we didn't see anything. But then we lost our keys, and weird things have happened. And that same story has actually our friend who lost his brother young. Uh, there's a story where they lost their keys. So I don't know, man. The human mind is a real turd when it comes to remembering things and being precise. Because if you look back on all your memories, if we went back and actually watched what happened, I'm sure it would be a completely different
Well, I mean, that's the
event.
other part of this too. Is like our memories are shit. I mean, you know me. I have a good memory, but even I am aware of how flawed my own memory is. Like, even though I might be able to remember a bunch of things or recall things from books or research or things like that, on the fly when we're doing these podcasts, I actually am very aware of the things that I can't remember fully or piece back together, and it's not the exact way that it happened or whatever. The
Mm-hmm.
weird thing I've been doing is in meditation too. I've been looking at like a specific memory, focusing on it, and then trying to put myself in the other person that was there. Like, what would their memory look like? And it would be something completely different because it's from a different point of view. So even when you
Right.
say, "Hey, do you remember this?" That person might remember the objective thing that happened, but they're not going to have the same connection to it as you or the way it was processed.
We'll just take a look at a spouse fight. You both have your own encounter of what the argument
Well,
was
that's what they
and
always
how
say.
it
That,
ensued. And
the truth is usually in the middle somewhere because everybody's going to twist something. That's what cognitive and confirmation bias. That's what all these things are. Is they're just ways that our brain twists things to help us get out on top.
yeah,
Um. So yeah. So that was the one. So it goes. Near death experiences. The first episode, mediums part 1, which we discussed. Mediums part 2, we discussed. Signs from the dead, and then seeing dead people, which is what we just discussed. And then the final episode, which was, I think, the second best episode. So again, I would have just watched 1 and 6 and been happy with it. Or if they would have just done those 2, I would have been fine with it. Number 6 was Reincarnation.
mm-hmm.
And I thought both of those Reincarnation stories were pretty compelling.
Yeah, I like that episode a lot. I actually just watched it before our little podcast here.
So, so the Reincarnation episode had the follow. There's a couple stories. There was the one story which has been kind of circulating around. I've seen it on different like different shows on TV, and it's usually one people point to was this guy when he they show him now he's older, but when he was a kid, he had this memory that he was being shot down in a plane over the Pacific, and he kept giving his parents all these details. He was like super young. I mean, I don't know how old he was like 3, 4, 5, somewhere around there. And he was talking about the plane and the type of plane and where it was, and the parents were like, what? And then they finally like looked this up, and there was this guy named this, I forget the person's name, but this kid was telling him who his friends were and all these people that this person knew and whatever. So they finally like looked this person up, and he was like the only person to die in the I forget, it was part of World War II, I forget, but the guy was the only person to die in this part of the war or something, and he was shot down. And yeah, he remembered like all this guy's friends and family and things he couldn't have known about planes and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. Both the that story and then the other story about the boy who remembers a different family and stuff. The problem, the thing about the kids is you got to believe them because these kids couldn't have been coerced into acting this way.
Right.
They're not going to be lying about it. But what's interesting is both those stories they talk about details and then they look them up and sure enough there they are. I guess they
Right.
could fabricate the thing for the TV show, but I didn't get that vibe.
No, and the boy when he was old, both boys when they were older, didn't really remember and didn't have any more visions or dreams or nightmares or anything like they did when they were younger. So once they got older, they kind of grew out of it, but they also forgot more about the situation. And I think
as you distance yourself from the realm of inception when you're born, because that's what they say is when you're between the ages of being born and like 5, you're the closest to the spiritual world, and that's why a lot of kids are very creative and things like that. And they actually relate it to being on LSD because your mind is just so I don't even know what the word would be, malleable,
yeah.
impressionable, and that kind of thing, but you're still connected to this other world that is full of possibilities and full of imagination and things like that.
Right. So yeah, so that was the one story was with the kid who thought he was the reincarnation of the pilot. And then yeah, they looked more into it, and then I think they even took the guy to the spot so he could have like closure before he got older and supposedly they say that helps, move on
Hmm.
from that traumatic event. And so the kid was like crying in the boat by like where this thing happened or whatever. So, and
Did
then
the
the
did
other,
the pilot guy have bad memory, or did the pilot guy have bad dreams and night terrors too? I can't remember.
I don't remember them talking about that, but you might be right. I don't know. I watched that like 4 or 5 days ago, so I
All
can't
right,
remember.
all right.
But then the other boy, when he was, so he was older than two. I don't know how old is 17, 18, 20 now or whatever. Who knows? But when he was younger, same thing. He was telling his parents, "Oh, I know, I want to go. I miss my old mommy or something like that, or And then she's like, "What are you
Yeah, he actually
talking?"
said my mommy with the pretty hair.
Yeah, and then she's like, "What are you talking about?" And then they like,
He said
look,
their names. He remembered the mom's name and the dad's name. They looked
yes,
them up. They were real people, and their daughter was it a daughter or a
yeah,
son?
the
But
daughter, and then that's who when the boy got older, they went to go meet the guy's daughter, who he thought he was a reincarnation of, and she was asked questions from this researcher. I think it was from that perceptual, the division of perception, or what was that I said earlier that in Virginia where they study it. Okay, University of Virginia, they have the division of perceptual studies. I think it was somebody from there,
hmm.
and they were asking her questions like about her own dad. Or no, they took questions from the boy uh, about or like things that he knew about the dad or something like that, and then asked the daughter if they were true. And the daughter said some things that weren't true that she didn't even know she was wrong and the boy was right. So that's what sold me on that, was the fact that this boy knew things that this lady didn't even know about her own dad when he was alive, and they were able to confirm these things as well.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Again, like I say, man, it's hard not to believe the kids.
Um, even with the UFO stuff,
That's what I was just gonna
that
say. I
Rua
was just gonna talk about.
Zimbabwe UFO sighting. I mean, it's very compelling stuff, and there's obviously something going on with consciousness. Before it becomes super. Maybe that's it. Maybe our consciousness just becomes super organized, and it's almost like how the universe began, in the sense that it goes from complete chaos to complete organization and entropy. Maybe that's happening with our consciousness, where it's just complete chaos, and then it becomes so like statically you can get into these other realms more when you're younger because it's more chaos, and then when you start to like organize, it starts to filter some of that stuff out. I don't know. I'm just
Well, that's the other thing too, is as you become an adult, you're compiling stories onto yourself, like we've discussed before, where I'm a shy person, and over time, then you actually become that shy person. When you're a kid, you can be anything you want, and literally the sky is the limit. So it's like I also want to say that drinking alcohol and doing these other things, that really draws you down into the quagmire of reality. That's why they call them spirits. I believe that they brought the spirit down into um, the more materialized world, and it makes a lot of sense when you drink booze and stuff. Like you're taking away from your true vibrational state.
okay.
I mean that's
No,
the
I'm
kind of
just
stuff that I
joking.
believe, and
No, no,
I also
you're right about spirits. I think it does come from something like that, or I think you're right, but I also think it could be something having to do with when you drink, you become kind of a different person, almost like you're possessed by a spirit in a way.
let's maybe I'll have to find out
Yeah,
here.
look that up, young Jamester. But yeah, I really like the first episode, near death experiences, and then the last episode, reincarnation. I could give or take the episode 4 and 5 about the seeing dead people and signs from the dead. I could watch that. That's fine. The psychic ones, the medium ones, just really did not do it for me. I felt again very not impressed.
Wow, we were both very wrong.
Okay.
The term spirit is a reference to alcohol. It stems from the Middle Eastern alchemy. The
Okay.
alchemists were more concerned with the medical elixirs than the transmutation. So pretty
Trans.
much the vapors giving off by the alcohol, that's what they're referring to as the spirits.
So like the way alcohol smells out, like burns your nostrils or whatever,
Yeah.
something like that. So it
The
has to do
alc
with alchemy then. Okay. Well, I mean, I know. I guess that makes sense. Now that
the
I think.
vapor given off and collected during the alchemical process,
Okay.
as with the distillation of alcohol, was called a spirit.
All right. All right.
But who knows? Because there might be a lot more
No, I mean you're
to
probably right.
that.
I don't know where I heard what I heard, whatever, but I believe what you're saying right now. I mean that sounds a lot more legit than what we were both saying. So, um, trying to think here, but yeah. So I mean, overall, again, I recommend it. I think if you're into watching these medium shows and you like the psychic stuff, totally, you'll probably love episode 2 and 3. It's just not. It's just something I'm skeptical of personally, even though I'm open minded about a lot of this stuff. I'm just skeptical of that just because, like I said, people are making money from doing it, and it's something that you can get good at by just doing. If you see hundreds and hundreds of people, you'll start to see patterns and things that they ask and know about and want to know, and you can give somewhat general answers to things and appease them. So that's just my thoughts and opinions on that. But again, I could be proven wrong, you know. But the
Yeah, I felt
internet,
like those middle episodes were kind of like those hokey, psychic shows or
I
like the
would just
ghost
need to see,
investigators and things like that. So
yeah. In the realm now of what we have with the internet and the resources and stuff, everybody can look everybody up and figure out what people, stuff. In this day and age, I would need to see something like crazier. Like they should have set up some experiment that could be replicated that to prove that somebody was able to do some of these things and not just having to deal, listen, say this person's dead father's speaking to me, and this is what they're saying. If you can do that, then you should be able to do other things where you can tell me other things that, or, maybe it is just the dead people thing, but then give them something that only that person can know and nobody else.
absolutely.
I don't know. It's just my thoughts on that.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think we both saw eye to eye. If people want to watch it and enjoy them all, then be our guest. But 1 and 6 are more of the meat and potatoes and
Yeah, if they would
more
have
realistic.
if they would have just did
valid
one
things.
episode 1 and 6, I would have been fine with the whole thing, and I'm still fine. I thought it was. Look, I think there needs to be more stuff like that. To be honest with you,
Well, they're all an hour long, so the first one is a nice juicy, documentary. It is an hour, so
yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, I recommend people check it out for sure. And yeah, let us know what you think. And look, if you think that we're wrong about episode 2 and 3, let us know why we're wrong, and I'll take another look at it for sure. But again, I just wasn't feeling it.
absolutely.
I do want to do an episode on reincarnation though, and focus more time on just the reincarnation stuff. Maybe talk more about. I have been working on one actually, but we have other stuff to get to as far as slideshow episodes. We have the Eleusinian Mysteries, part of ancient Greece. I want to do some mythology stuff as well. So maybe we'll get to the reincarnation one at some point. But yeah, Dorothy Eady, if nobody knows who that is, aka Om Seti. She was basically this young girl who was taken to this British, Egyptian museum, and she fell to the feet of one of these statues and thought that they're her people, and she felt like she was a reincarnation of a priestess from I think is it pre-dynastic or dynastic Egypt? I think it's pre-dynastic Egypt, and she basically helped a lot of archaeologists in the early days find places where a lot of these sites were and burial chambers and stuff like that. So I think that it's one of, if not the most credible reincarnation story, just because of the amount of knowledge and stuff of ancient times and ancient Egypt and all that stuff. The knowledge. How would you know a lot of these things? So if you don't know who Dorothy Eady or Om Seti is, look her up. It's quite interesting. You even have like mainstream. She even helped like mainstream archaeologists, find burial sites and different sites to dig. So crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's some good valid stuff there. And yeah, I would love to do a reincarnation episode, maybe pull some information from some of the older religions and
Yeah,
things
we can
like
look up
that.
the
And
Buddhists, and the all the ancient ideas around reincarnation and to what people think about it nowadays. We could totally do something. I started working on the slideshow, like I said, but it probably will be a little bit before we get to it, but we'll do it at some point.
very good, my man.
So, but yeah, I really enjoyed that. I think, they need to make more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if anybody has any suggestions for something they would like reviewed that's up our alley, then leave a comment below and we'll try and check it out. I'm always looking for some good content to consume. There's a lot of junk out there, and
I mean, there's just a lot of stuff in general.
that's true.
I mean, you're going to get some stuff, but I think, there should be some more content coming out. I feel like that we're on the verge now of getting more of this stuff out there, whether it be this near-death stuff or UFO stuff or you name it, psychedelic research stuff. All that stuff's going to come out. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but again, if you're interested, head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/MindEscapePodcast. We do have, for $2, you get exclusive content. We have a bunch of episodes on there with a lot of the guests that we've had on the show. Usually some of our bigger guests we do them with. So if you liked any of the episodes we've done in the past, and there's a good chance that we did a Patreon with that guest as well. If you want to get in on a fan chat, that's part of our $5 tier. We just did one of those today. We had a great time. We talked for like an hour and a half about a little bit of everything. For $10, you become a secret escapee, which we're working on another secret episode. So that'll be secret episode number 2 coming up. And again, find us on Discord. If you don't know what Discord is, it's a messaging app, and we also do these fan chat episodes where we talk with our fans and listeners and kind of do a back and forth. But yeah, it's just a good place to chat. And also head on over to indrasweb.org. It is live. Set up a profile. And if you want me to give you a little extra juice on there, or you want to be an administrator or create a group or something like that, just let me know. We'll try and get you set up with that. And that's about it. Anything else?
Not much. Very good, sir.
All right. Well, we love everybody. Stay safe out there. We'll try and get another episode in this week. And we love everybody. Peace.
Peace.